Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for joining me here on a Perezpective review, where I'll be discussing episode 5 of Hulu's original series 11/22/63, The Truth. And let me tell you, this is a great episode. It has a lot more stuff going on, and I think it's an improvement on at the very least the third episode. I think it's a little bit better than the fourth episode. But let's just jump right into it, right? The Truth starts off right after the end of episode 4, where we see that Sadie has found the tapes of Marina and Lee having sex, and she is disturbed by this, even asking Jake, "Who are you running away?" And Jake follows her to see if he can talk to her, which Sadie says, "Who are you? Who are you, Jake?" And it goes back to what she was saying about last week, where she was saying, "I don't even know who you are. You don't talk about your family. You don't tell stories about your family. Who are you?" And of course, there was that note that Johnny Clayton had left her, and in the papers of the divorce, he says he's not who you think he is, or something like that. I forgot what it says, but it's something in that manner. And of course she ends up leaving him, and so now they're broken up. So unfortunately, Sadie and Jake are no longer together. So we actually get a flashback to Jake trying to teach students back in 2016, and it's really, you can really see the contrast in his students back in 63 and to the students he has in 2016. 2016 students just really don't care. And he's talking to him about Homer and in the Odyssey, how Homer had the opportunity to stay with Calypso on her island, but instead he decides he wants to go back home. And he's asking him, why would he decide to do that? Why would he do that instead of staying with Calypso? This mirrors the situation that's going to happen to Jake, right? It's been what I've been saying all along, the importance of Jody and the relationships he builds there. Because once Jake is able to at least try to stop the assassination of JFK, and if he's able to actually go through it, it's gonna be his choice on whether, or he's gonna have a choice whether he's gonna want to go back to 2016, or does he want to stay in Jody, even to the point where maybe he says, maybe I don't want to mess up what I have here in Jody, and maybe I won't go through the mission. Later we see that Jake is fired by Deke due to the information that Zeta gives him about the tapes that he found, with Jake saying that Jake is not the person that he thought Jake was. And we see Miss Mimi being the only person that really still believes in Jake, and it actually goes back to the couple episodes where we see Jake treating her with respect, treating her as a person should treat another person. When at that time there was all these racial tensions, and just as an example, the offering her coffee when everybody just looked at him like that's not something you do, or even standing up for her at the gas station when the attendant would not sell her gas. So this goes back to how he treats her. She still believes in him, even though she did find out that he was lying about his identity in the previous episode. So we do arrive at the date that Lee will try to assassinate General Walker, and prior to that night, we see that Jake and Bill are talking about what is going to happen. We know that Lee is going to take a shot from through the window where General Walker is going to be at his desk, and they're trying to pinpoint where Lee would stand. And Bill even says that's an easy shot. What happened? And Jake says, no one knows. No one really knows. And they start to plan what they're gonna do to try to follow him around. And Jake says that the theory is that there was a church letting out at the time of the shooting that Lee used as a cover for him to leave. So Jake tells him, "We're gonna come back here. We're gonna follow Lee, and we're gonna make sure that he's either by himself or if someone actually is the one that tells him to take the shot." Of course, Jake is not able to make it because something always has to come up. Something the past has to push back, has to keep him from showing up. And we see a Jake receive a phone call from Johnny Clayton, who is Sadie's ex-husband, and he's calling from Sadie's house. So nothing good could be happening if Johnny Clayton has already been giving the creeps to everybody watching the show. The actor is phenomenal and showing how creepy Johnny Clayton is. So Jake automatically calls Bill and tells him that he needs to follow Lee on his own because well, actually doesn't tell him why. He just decides that he's gonna leave the phone on off the hook. And like I said, I'll go a little bit out of order here, and we'll talk about Bill following Lee. And we see previously Bill actually talking to Marina and getting found by Lee. He is getting in Lee's radar more and more and more. So now, if Bill is seen by Lee back over there where General Walker lives, it's going to raise serious flags. However, none of this even matters because Bill, at the time that he's looking for Lee, thinks he sees his sister coming out of the church that was supposed to be used as the Lee's cover, and he immediately runs towards her and he reaches the girl he thought was his sister, and when she turns around, he hears gunshots or a gunshot, and of course he missed Lee. He doesn't know if Lee was by himself. He doesn't know what happened at that time. So yeah, Bill messed up, which is, it's frustrating. Like I said, I like that Bill's along only because it helps condense the story in the book. And once again, I'm not going to talk too much about the book, but unless I just want to. But in the book, Jake has to be the one on his own, leaving and coming back to Jody, leaving to Dallas, coming back to Jody to do surveillance. And in the story, in the series, we see that we not only have 5 years, we have only 3 years to do everything. So while in the book, while Jake is doing a lot of this investigating, he's already broken up with Sadie. It's kind of all happening together at the same time here in the series because of the condensed timeline, which is why Bill was there. However, Bill continues to mess things up, whether he wants to or not. He is just getting in the way and making it difficult to stay off the radar of Lee. So yeah, not only is he getting on his radar, he is not following through the plan, and does not see if Lee was the only person there when he took a shot at General Walker. So going back to Sadie's house, we see that Johnny has Sadie tied up with on a chair with a burlap sack or some sort of sack over her head, and you see blood dripping over the her face, or right through the blood. And Johnny wants Jake to drink a glass of bleach, but of course Jake's not going to drink it. He refuses to do so. A little bit later on in the scene, we see that Johnny gets after Sadie for dropping a glass pitcher, and while Sadie first starts to apologize, she later starts to laugh and actually starts to mock Johnny, questioning him about what his grandmother did to him. She even goes and says that they took her away because of him, and Johnny starts to get a little unhinged and starts pointing the gun at them when the doorbell rings. And we see that two students that have come to give Sadie a prize for winning a raffle. And Jake is actually able to get him to go away without giving away. He looks, I mean, if I were those kids, I don't think I would have bought that nothing was going on. He says he's fixing her sink, and one of the kids even offers to help because his dad's a plumber, and he just tells him, no, go away. But his demeanor is very weird. I wouldn't, if I was that student, I would have think something's going down, and nothing good actually. So we see Jake go back to the kitchen where Johnny and Sadie are, and Johnny warns him he better not hear any sirens or there's going to be some shooting going on. And we see that Johnny's able to get Jake right about he's about to drink the bleach, when Jake decides he's gonna throw the bleach in his eyes, and it makes it disorients Johnny to the point where Jake and Sadie are able to get away into the living room, and we see Jake go into the living room, not being able to see, just starts to shoot around the living room, hoping to get him, and we see Jake throw his watch across the room to startle Johnny, and he's able to get him and finish him off with a fire those pokers from the fireplace. And wow, that was a great scene. Just the moment he went, it 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 lets me it let me like, oh my god. We follow Sadie. He's getting taken to the hospital where Jake is being questioned. Not before that he was getting questioned at the house, but Deke's able to come in and pull him away from there and tell the officers that he better get questioned over there at the hospital so that Jake can be with Sadie. There, while at the hospital, Jake pretty much tells the guy it felt good to kill him because this guy was terrorizing Sadie, and he was terrorizing because of Jake. So he tells him, yes, it did feel good, but in the end, Johnny Clayton deserved what he got. So we get to the point where a doctor comes to tell Jake that they couldn't do any much more for Sadie, and we get a fake out of Sadie being dead. However, we find out that she's alive, but what the nurse or the doctor was saying was that they weren't able to fix her face because of the technology at that time did not allow for them to fix her as well as they would want to. Jake decides that he's going to go ahead and tell Sadie the truth, and she seems to believe him very, very easily. She does ask him if he was being serious about it, which he says yes, and they end up getting back together. But I just find it very, very hard to believe that she believes him, although it can lead back to that she feels that he's finally telling him the truth and telling her the truth, and that would be the reason why she's able to believe him so easily. Now, the one thing that I had skipped over during this part is that there was a conversation or a flashback with a conversation with Jake and Al in the diner or his house where I wrote it down really quick, but I'm not sure I got it word for word. He says, the hardest part of living in the past is that everything you tell everybody is a lie. And then he pretty much telling him what he had told him at the beginning of the show: do not get close to anybody, do not talk to anybody, because in reality it's going to make you forget why you went back in the first place. Which, once again, I go back to what I was saying about Jody wanting more time in Jody because it helps complicate the story for Jake. We see more of his ties to the city and why he would not want to go back to the present. Why he may want to even just decide not to go through with the plan to save JFK. Because if he does, he would be losing everything he has there in Jody. Especially since he loved the teaching, especially since he loved everything. Of course, at this point, all his lies are starting to unravel, and he's starting to lose everything. So it kind of leads to him just, okay, well, I'm going to have to do this either way. So we are 5 episodes through. We have 3 more episodes left. Unfortunately, this is only an 8-part miniseries. I can't wait for more of this show. It keeps getting better. For me, there's only one dud in it, and it was the 3rd episode. Even though it was the episode that he gets to Jody, it felt kind of slow. And I say dud, but it wasn't really all that bad. It was just the worst of them. That one was just a little bit better than episode 1. But every other episode, the other 3 episodes have been great. And I'm just waiting for episode 6, 7, and 8 to come around. It sucks that having to wait a whole week, especially since we are now used to getting all the episodes in one day, just like we are right now with Daredevil. But at the same time, I guess it just helps gives us an anticipation for the next week, for the next following episode. All right, so we'll leave it there. What do you guys think of episode 5, The Truth? Let me know. And remember, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, as well as nerdfeed.com, where you can find all my videos, as well as the rest of the Let's Chat team, nerdfeed.com. And you can find me at Perezpective on all those sites. Okay, guys, we'll see you guys next time.